This is Amanda from the 36 Legislative Dems. And this is our endorsement interview with Claudia Balducci, who is running for King County Executive. Claudia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this. I really appreciate all of the volunteer effort that goes into assessing candidates and providing information to voters. It's a real challenge to make sure that voters have good choices, and your role is important in doing that. My name is Claudia Balducci. I am currently the King County Council member for District 6, and that includes about 2/3 each of the cities of Bellevue, Kirkland, and Redmond, all of Mercer Island, and all of the Points communities in East King County. Prior to serving on the King County Council, I have served 3 terms on the Bellevue City Council, including a term as deputy mayor and a term as mayor. And just by way of introducing myself, I would say I think when people hear that I've been a resident and a leader here in Bellevue and in East King County, they think that must mean that I come from money and that I am very, very wealthy. But I will tell you, part of the reason I'm running for this job, and I've done the local government work that I have done, is because I come from a family of public servants. My mom is a retired elementary school public school teacher. My one and only sibling, my brother, is a retired New York City firefighter, and my stepfather, who has passed away now, worked most of his career as a court officer. He was also a part-time volunteer firefighter, and I will say I think some of the firefighting in my family and in my background seeped into me, because if there is a problem and it is engulfed in flames, usually figuratively, you can find me heading in that direction. I have prided myself in all of my work, taking on really big challenges, including very controversial solutions to challenges, and making sure that we are moving ever forward to serve the people of King County. And that's what I hope to do. And I hope to earn your support so that I can be the next King County executive. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so
I love the
much.
walk-off music. That's
Yeah. Our uh, our first question is going to be asked by Sarah.
Hi, Claudia. The first question to you is, what are your unique qualifications for this role? What makes you the best candidate for this position? And how would you use this experience to improve the King County Executive's Office to better serve the people of King County?
Thank you so much for that question, Sarah. Good to see you. Um, the thing that really sets me apart, I think, from other candidates in this race is just my experience. I just passed my 25th anniversary working for King County. I started as a line staff person. I worked in the executive branch for a long time, including running one of our largest departments, the Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention, for a number of years. And I have been an elected official, as I said, in 2 different governments over a number of terms. And I haven't just served that time. That's not just clocking time. I have made it my point to, wherever I go, tackle complex problems and try to drive change. And so, for example, one of my missions in life has been to expand transit. I fully and deeply believe that access to good, reliable, sustainable, environmentally sustainable transportation is part of how we provide equity and economic opportunity in our county. And so I have been fighting for many, many years to expand our transit system. If I'm known for anything, I'm probably known for fighting and winning the Battle of Light Rail in East King County. And it was a battle. We had some very wealthy, entrenched interests who put a lot of energy politically, legally, monetarily into stopping that expansion. And I am very proud of my work that got it open over here in East King County, expanded in just a few days. I hope to see you at the opening on May 10th, and also eventually across the bridge and connecting this entire region. I will also say that as mayor of Bellevue and into my time as a King County Council member, I saw a problem where we did not have any permanent shelter, emergency shelter for county residents, for East King County residents. And I partnered with the cities over here to create the first ever suite of homelessness shelters and permanent supportive housing. Very difficult. It can be very challenging. And these are the sorts of things that I want to scale up and can continue to do countywide.
Great. Thank you. Our second question will be asked by Chelsea.
Hi. We have seen the federal government's lawless actions across the country. What tangible actions would you take in the short and long term to protect the residents of King County and to stand up to the federal government?
Absolutely. It's been kind of incredible to watch. And as part of this campaign, we started out talking about one thing and we ended up talking about this because it has become the biggest threat, in my view, to our ability to serve and provide critical functions to local residents. There are a number of things that a county executive and indeed a county council member can and should do, and that I will do and have been doing. First of all, you've just got to stand up and speak out. People are afraid. People are afraid that they are being targeted. Our immigrant communities are afraid. People with LGBTQ plus backgrounds, identities, and family members and friends are afraid of losing their rights and being targeted. Our progress, such that we have made on racial and social justice, is in threat of being rolled back. And so the first thing we do is we stand up and we speak out and we make sure that people know that we are not going to just go along to get along. And I have been doing that as the committee chair for our committee of the whole, where we have made this a key feature of our work this year and into the future, where we're focusing on threats. The way they're implementing their regressive regime is by threatening our federal funding. That's one of the key ways they're doing that. And we are refusing to accept that quietly. I support the second way we push back. I support the county executive's decision in the last few days to push back and refuse to sign kind of those fake loyalty oaths that we're getting, and instead to sue and stand for our rights and make sure that we are not having our regional tax dollars taken from us and then not put towards the kinds of funding that we need. And we need to be smart and be strategic and work in partnership. That means keeping together the key institutions that work in homelessness. We need to hang together. The county and the cities, we need to hang together. Being open, working together. This is something that I do frequently and have done in many ways. And we need to continue to do that working together so that we are not picked off one by one. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our third question will be asked by Alex.
Hello, Councilmember. As we have seen from the Sound Transit experience, building things in King County takes far too long. In your opinion, what are some of the root causes of our inability to deliver on these projects, and what would you do to address them?
Thank you for the question, Alex. You are singing my song. I have been on the Sound Transit Board for quite a while. I am currently the chair of the System Expansion Committee. This answer is going to be about Sound Transit, but it's not specific to Sound Transit. This is generalizable to government being slow and difficult to deliver on results generally. However, Sound Transit is a fantastic example. One of the things is we need to look at ourselves. We start by looking in the mirror, and this is something that I forced the agency to do when we went through our last economic downturn during COVID, and say, what are we doing that is causing things to slow down? And as it turns out, quite a bit. For key example, at the decision-making level, we're too darn linear. We want to decide A before we decide B, before we decide C. We can make decisions in a more holistic way that moves things forward faster. Two, we are far too willing to go back to the drawing board. We are excellent at going back to the drawing board. And this is a little more challenging because we typically go back to the drawing board because somebody has come to us, usually some ways down the line, and said, what you're doing, it's harming somebody, it's harming me, and I want you to change direction. We need to figure out how to identify problems earlier, get ahead of them, make decisions, and then stick to them, even in the face of impacts, and work on being better at mitigating impacts rather than let's go back to the drawing board. I'm super proud of the work that we've done, that I instituted to say we're not going to make decisions to delay decisions at the Sound Transit Board any longer without having in front of us information about the cost of delay. What does it do to the total schedule? What does it cost every month that we delay? And we first applied this to a very belated request from Vulcan and Amazon to move a light rail station. And we decided to not take that request up because it was going to delay and add cost to the extension of the alignment. This is where you start. And there's more to be said, but I can't do it in 2 minutes. I just will say it is a It is a fundamental priority of mine to deliver that rail and to deliver the projects that we promise to the community and to do it efficiently. Thanks for the extra time.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Our fourth question will be asked by Toby.
What is your plan to address homelessness as county executive, and what specific commitments are you prepared to make today to address the issue?
Thank you so much for that question. I want to say that my career as an elected official has been almost like a fractal. I started doing things that were just in my own neighborhood and then expanded out to my city, to my region, and ultimately now I'm seeking to be countywide. When I first ran for office, I did it because my city was attempting to do a little upzoning, and I mean a little, in my neighborhood that would have allowed for housing, multifamily housing to be built in a small part of our single family neighborhood, thus opening up opportunity for more housing, more affordable housing in my own neighborhood. I stood up for that, and I was one of the very few around here to do so. Most of my neighbors didn't want it because, well, because of all the reasons people don't want to see infill development. When I became mayor of Bellevue, I organized with the cities of East King County to create the first suite of homelessness shelters at the county council. I worked with Executive Constantine to open our first ever permanent supportive housing through a variety of initiatives, including health through housing. This is the way. We need the full scope of housing. We need shelters. And by the way, we need to be a little bit less um, uh, selective around what we provide. It's okay to have some tiny home villages. It's okay to have some congregate shelter. These are not where people belong ultimately, but to come off the streets, to be connected to services, to be stabilized, and then quickly to move into more best practice housing like the health through housing apartments, that's okay. We need the full spectrum, and ultimately we need a lot more houses, generally homes, apartments, because we don't have time to debate the question, but at root, our homelessness problem is due to a lack of housing that people can access and afford. And finally, along all of that, there's a continuum of services required that also needs to be funded and provided. I commit to doing all of the things along that spectrum.
Great, thank you. That concludes our initial prepared questions. What I'll do is open it up now for board members and members that have joined us to raise their hands in Zoom and ask questions, and you'll have a minute to respond to each of these. So looks like we're starting with Sarah. Go for it.
Hello again. So as you are very familiar with, the county is in a budget deficit, a pretty significant budget deficit, but it's constrained in terms of new revenue options or revenue options in general, the cap on property taxes. What new revenue options do you support, and how would you work with the legislature ultimately to get new revenue over the finish line long term?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And yes, as you all are undoubtedly aware, as sort of people who pay attention to important issues, I think that our regressive tax system is probably the biggest long-term threat to our ability as a local government to provide all the many services that we are required and expected to provide. And so eventually we have got to make a change. This session, there was some really great debate going on, but when it came to local funding, none of that was about us. All of the progressive revenue being discussed was about the state's revenue. None of it was about how do you fund local government. We were offered the same two options we're always offered: increase sales taxes and increase property taxes. And we have got to get back to the discussion about the tax system as a whole. I will say one of the ways I have had success at tackling really big, gnarly challenges is that you have to sort of do it with an intent and with a will. You have to get people together. You have to talk through the issues. You have to put your options and your, pros and cons on the wall and build and organize support for the solutions. Coming up with bills during session and just fighting over them isn't going to get us to the big changes we need. I will say, to answer your question directly, I have not taken a strong position against any particular kind of progressive revenue. We need to build the momentum and commitment and organization around getting to something that can be implemented. I'd love to support to get back to talking about income tax like many states have. very difficult to implement. We need to find the thing that we can rally around together.
Got time. Yeah, I'll let you go a
Thank
little
you,
over with
thank
that
you.
one. All right, we'll go on to the next question. I know it's hard in 1 minute. Go for it, Toby.
When you increase density, sometimes you cause gentrification and displacement. How would you deal with that?
So that's absolutely true. And when I came on the King County Council, I had made a commitment on the campaign trail that I would lean into housing affordability and improving housing affordability. I feel it's incumbent on me as somebody who lives in and represents part of the areas that are some of the most expensive land in the country to do so. So I put together a task force and we came up with a number of really great recommendations. This was a partnership of all the cities of King County, representatives of all of the cities and the county. And one of the key recommendations we had was that as you focus on supply, especially, this is the zoning and comprehensive plan changes that will allow for more density. You absolutely have to do it with displacement in mind. You have to be intentional about how you plan for that density. One of the ways to deal with displacement is to sort of require affordable housing along with new capacity. So this is the inclusionary zoning approach. Another way is land trusts. Community land trusts are a very effective way. Sorry.
Time.
It's a
Sorry.
super complex
I know.
question. Love to talk about it more off after.
Well, we have time. There may be some follow-up questions more on
Okay.
this as well. Jack, go ahead with your question.
Hello, Councilmember Balducci.
Okay.
You mentioned Sound Transit several times, and you are chair of the relevant committee. How will you fix the fundamentally flawed plan for ST3 Link, where the former executive and now current CEO is pushing the split CID station?
Well, my position has always been that this is the one and only opportunity that we have right there to create a hub on our system. If we don't create a hub there, this system will have no hub. It would be a tremendous lost opportunity. In addition, we've heard part of the reasoning around the debate we're having about where to put that station and some of the rationale behind the split station is because there are people who care very sincerely and rightly about continuing the impacts of development on the CID. It is a neighborhood that has been pushed around and moved from place to place and harmed by public works project after public works project. And the board rightly does not want to be the next one to do that. But I will say, you can harm a neighborhood by construction. You can also harm it by passing it up. I intend to debate through the rest of this year and the rest of the debate that we're having. And by the way, I'm going to be doing this whether I get elected executive or not. We have to find a way to make that hub. There's got to be a path to it. I'm not the engineer who can solve all the problems, but I am the leader who's going to keep pushing to try to do it.
Thank you. I don't know if we have any other questions that folks have. Seeing other hands. Sarah, go ahead.
So very much appreciate your leadership on transit. What more can we do to ensure it's accessible, safe, and reliable for everyone, particularly Metro Transit and connecting our most vulnerable residents?
Yeah. So I'm extremely proud of the work that we've done to expand transit and to make it accessible to more people. The plan that we have would ultimately expand, and this is Metro Connects, ultimately expand transit to where it is within a reasonable walk of something like 80% of the residents in King County. And that's the vision. We have to build towards that. I think there's aspects to this question. One is we got to build back from where we were. We need the drivers, we need the mechanics, we need the funding to make sure that we can meet our commitments to people so the buses show up, or else people won't rely on them. We also need to work on safety. I am super proud to be partnering with and endorsed by our Amalgamated Transit Union 587 as we work through different ways to make the system safer especially in the aftermath of the murder of our transit operator, Sean Yim. Lots of different ideas on a list there, but they range from better lighting, stations with eyes on them, providing support services at stations, and making sure that we have got people to respond when there are problems.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more. So Richard, you're gonna go ahead and ask the last one.
Thank you. I have a question that's a simple one, perhaps. Actually, it's a third rail, so I hate for the, sorry about that, but I'm not paying enough taxes. Why don't you tax my income tax, my capital gains? I know it's a third rail, but why why not on a county level come up with more? We tried initially on county level, and then it became a state capital gains tax. Why not tax me? I got more money than the people that are in my apartments.
Thank you. I so love the way you framed that question. I have a longstanding constituent friend who wears a button that says "tax me," and so the short answer, which is not satisfying but is true, is because the state doesn't give us the authority to do much of anything other than sales and property tax. We would need a change in the law to authorize us to do the things you're talking about. We have been advocating, I have been advocating with the state legislature to allow us to have more tools. They have not responded. And so if you all can join with us in going down to Olympia and like give us more tools, give us the ability to be less regressive, we would take it. I would take it. And so I really hope that we can do that in the future. But as of right now, our choices are sales tax, property tax, some very small little additional things, fees. We charge a lot of fees, a lot of rates. You get those bills every month. And that's about it. We can't even charge utility tax, which would also be regressive, by the way. So we need help from the state. I finished ahead of that one for a change.
I know. Nice job. Thank you so much. This concludes the recorded part. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much.